Here are 9 questions to ask yourself this January to create a year that you are genuinely proud of, no matter how many curveballs come your way. So first question, what were your top 5 favourite memories of 2025? By actually asking yourself what were your most memorable or happiest moments of 2025, you are collecting data that is incredibly valuable. Because ultimately, what we want to do is have a happy life, a fulfilled life, a life of progress, a life of memories. And so if you can figure out what led to the most amount of memories in 2025, you can make changes and implement things that is going to lead you to create more happy memories in 2026. So for me, I wrote down the top happiest or most memorable moments in 2025 for me. And I'll be honest, at least 3 of those things were me being outside. Activities that involved swimming or paddleboarding or exploring or hiking. And if I hadn't have asked myself that question, I might not have realised that. You see, I'm in a chapter of my life that is very much focused on work. And so because of the amount of time I spend on work, I would like to assume that some of my happiest or most memorable moments would be when I was doing something work related. But actually only 2 out of 5 of my happiest, most memorable moments were work related. The other 3 were exploring Scotland, where I live, doing activities where I move my body. And so whilst that's definitely not my focus in terms of how I want to make progress in 2026, it certainly tells me what I need to implement more of in 2026 in order to create more memories and have more happy moments I can look back on. So what for you were some of your happiest or most memorable moments in 2025? It makes logical sense to look at those and see how you can have more of those in 2026. If you're new here, then one of the things that I am a big advocate of is action. And so the last thing I want is for you to watch this video and walk away with nothing. And I can only do so much being behind your screen. If you really want to make the most out of the time you're spending watching this video, then I want you to pause the video here and actually open up a notebook, open up your notes page in your phone and think about what were your happiest memories of 2025. For me, I actually had to scroll back through my photos to really remember what I'd done this year, and the ones that made me smile the most and have almost a warmness in my heart were the ones that I wrote down. So throughout this video, if you actually want to get the most value out of it, pause it where you need to in order to answer the questions fully. Number 2, what are your 3 priorities for the year ahead? This is probably the most important question that you will ask yourself throughout this entire video. What are your 3 priorities? Now, this is very different to what most goal setting or New Year, New Me workshops will encourage you to ask. And this is the closest to goal setting we're getting. You see, every time I set a goal for the new year, I found myself just trying to, just kind of plucking things from the air. I'd like to write a book. Yeah, I'd like to go on the radio again. Yeah, I think that might be quite fun. And I almost found myself forcing myself to come up with exciting ideas of what I could do. And yeah, it would have been great to do some of those things. But because they didn't feel really meaningful to me, they were more just like ideas that I'd like to happen, but hadn't really got a plan as to how I was going to make that happen. And even when there was something that I really wanted to achieve and was determined to make happen, my life changed so quickly within the space of a few months that very soon the goals that I'd set in January were no longer relevant, either no longer relevant to my life or no longer relevant to what I actually wanted. And so when you set goals, what you will likely find midway through the year or by the end of the year when you look back at them is either one of 2 things. A, you have spent the entire year tunnel vision trying to achieve this one thing, and you've maybe achieved it, but actually it's not very fulfilling, and you've probably declined so many opportunities that were more meant for you because you were hyper fixated on, this is the goal I've set out to achieve, I have to do this exact thing in the way that January me set out to do it. But realistically, within even a month, by February, you might have new information that means that you should take a different approach to the goal that you set out. But because you're so fixated on that goal, you're not changing how you're going about it. So it's really important to, yes, have an idea of what you want to achieve, but also have flexibility and vagueness within that so that life can mold around it. Or B, what you'll have found, and this is what I typically found, was that by the end of the year, I would pick up my journal, look back on what I'd set out to do at the beginning of the year with a pen, excited to tick things off and feel really good in myself. But because they weren't actually things I really wanted to achieve, I found that I'd not achieved any of them. And even though I knew that life had changed, I might have moved house. I might have moved to a different city. And so my plan of going to a certain gym 3 days a week was no longer relevant because that gym was no longer in my life. I found that even though I knew that the context had changed, I still felt guilty. I still felt kind of that lack of endorphin hit of not being able to tick them off. And I might have seen my partner or other people ticking their goals off. And I was just sat there kind of feeling like I'd failed. So instead of creating goals that's either going to lead to those A or B paths, we're going to create priorities, vague ideas of what we want for our year. So I'll give you an idea of what I've set as priorities in the past. So over the last few months, I've been really trying to expand my world. I moved in the last 2 years to a new country. I mean, it's not that exotic, it's just Scotland, an hour or so over the border. But I'm in a brand new town. I don't really know anybody. I live 24/7 with my partner. We both work from home. I'm like half an hour from a gym or shops. And so my world, I realised, had become quite small. And as a result, I was relying on my partner for kind of all of my socialising. And I just realised that my life was becoming almost worryingly small and I needed to do something about it. And so over the last few months, I've been doing things to expand my world and to really do independent activities more. And so that, in doing more independent activities, is one of my priorities for 2026. I'm not going into 2026 with the goal of I am going to go on a solo surf trip. I am going to go to the cinema twice a week by myself. No, life can change. The cinema might shut down. I might decide I don't want to go on a surf trip, or there's no appropriate flights, or it's just too expensive. But if I set the priority of I want to do more independent activities, then that is something that I want to be in my mind every single day. And we're going to get onto that in the upcoming questions of how you can keep yourself accountable to these priorities. This priority is going to be so much more beneficial to me than setting myself 3 goals of how I could do independent activities. So what are your top 3 priorities for this year? It could be to be really present when you're with family. It could be to make incremental upgrades in your home. It could be to enhance your sense of safety, which then, as really small tiny steps, again, which we'll go on to in a minute, could be like installing a CCTV camera outside your house. Something that's not massive, but as a small isolated instance would help you feel more safe. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So pause the video here, take the time. Even if this is the only question you do in this whole video, I promise you it is going to kickstart your 2026 on the best leg forward. I don't even think that's the right phrase, but you know what I mean. What are your top 3 priorities for 2026? Great, hopefully you have taken the time to do that. So step 2 of this priority setting, and question number 3, is what are 3 super small action points you could set yourself for each of those 3 priorities? Now this might sound overwhelming, but the point is to make this really, really small. So rather than setting big goals, we're setting big priorities, and within those priorities we're setting really small goals. This is how you're going to keep it realistic and keep yourself accountable and motivated to actually achieve these things, because they're so small and easy to get done. You could literally get them done today. So my second priority for 2026 is to do more outdoor adventures. And I only came to this priority by looking at what were my happiest memories of 2025. And as I mentioned, they were being outdoors, paddleboarding, being in the water, connecting with Jordan over doing something physical and slightly out of the comfort zone. being in nature. And so having more outdoor adventures is definitely one of my priorities for 2026. And one of my immediate action points I'm going to take is to buy me and Jordan a life jacket each, because I love paddleboarding, but if we decide to go paddleboarding in January in Scotland when it's minus temperatures and we fall in, we're both strong swimmers, but the water is cold, and if we get water shock, that could become really dangerous really quickly. So realistically, we can't go paddleboarding for quite a few months unless we have life jackets. So that's something super easy, super quick that I can do, and therefore eliminates any excuses as to why I can't do paddleboarding for a few months. In terms of independent activities, I have joined a girls group in my local area, and so one of my little small things that I'm going to do is to just go to another one of their events this month. Really easy. I just think they're actually launching the events for the month today, and so I'm going to be looking out for that, and I have to pick one. I'm going to decide on which one I'm going to do, and I'm going to go for that. So really ask yourself, look at each one of these priorities and create 3 really small things that you could do. Like with the idea of the priority of creating more safety in your life. You could literally go on Amazon right now and purchase a security camera for your front door. You could go, these are all buying things, they don't have to be buying things, but you could go and get yourself a really cozy blanket because that might make you feel really safe. You could schedule in a catch up with your mum or your friend once a week or once a month, and just knowing that you've got that person in your life and that connection frequently could help you to feel more safe. So what are 3 action points that you could do that are really, really small that you could do in the next 2 weeks? We're talking about things that are easy to achieve in a short space of time. That's what's going to set the ball rolling, and that, repeated, is what's going to really create a lot of change in your life. Okay, number 4. How will you review your priorities over the year? There's no point, and to be honest, I have personally done this myself and made this mistake myself of setting the priorities and then for the first month or 2 really being on them and then completely forgetting I ever created them. You might find that one priority moves to the front and you just focus on that one priority, but I think it's good to have 3 to really try and cover a few different areas of your life. But we really want to make sure we have something in place to review and keep ourselves accountable to these priorities. So you don't have to come up with that system yourself. I've got you. I've got 2 suggestions of really easy and helpful ways to stay on track to having a year really in alignment with those priorities. So, A, you can pop a reminder in your calendar every 2 weeks, every month, or every quarter to check in with your priorities, to really look at, have you achieved the action points that you set out to achieve for those priorities? Have you done other things? Maybe there are things that weren't your action points, but you've actually done those instead. And if you have accomplished those action points, then you got to create another 3 action points. 3 things that you could do in the next 2 weeks to really move forward with these priorities. If it's to your priority for this year is to be more present or spend more time with family, then have you got anything else in the diary for when you're going to see those family? Maybe your next action point is to give them a call and decide on a date when you can see them. You don't have to know what you're going to do, but just deciding on a date, giving them a ring and putting it in the diary is going to really, really help you to be more present and spend more time with family. So having those diary reminders to check in with your action points, see what you've done, tick off any that you haven't done, and then to add more is going to really, really help you. Or B, and this is something I really love to do, is at the end of every week, or you can do every day, but I will tell you I did this for the entirety of January once, and it's not sustainable, so I would probably recommend every week. Open up your journal or your notes page and write a list of everything you did in that day or that week or heck that month that was in alignment with your priorities. This way you're really getting to see how much you are staying in alignment with those things. And hopefully they're things that you really want to do and you're really committed to doing, and your brain is being creative with how you can do them. And the more you check in with your priorities, the more your brain subconsciously starts to take action in alignment with them anyway, and you don't have to constantly think about them because they're in your brain. If I'm going into each day constantly thinking about independent activities, after a while, I don't have to think about it anymore. I am automatically taking steps forward with that because it's at the forefront of my brain. So if you put in the work up front, then throughout the rest of the year, yes, you want to check in with them, but you'll find that you've achieved a lot more than you would have done if you never had these priorities. So these two accountability methods are great ways of keeping yourself motivated, reminding yourself frequently how much you've achieved and thus feeling proud of yourself, and really staying accountability to your priorities. So pause the video here and make sure you get your diary out and schedule these reminders in, or decide whether you're going to do a daily, weekly, or monthly review of your actions around these priorities. Number 5. How would you have to be throughout 2026 to look back on the year with pride? So I am somebody who used to have a huge amount of regrets. I would go out and I would have a regret. I would see friends and I would be overthinking what I'd said and I would regret saying certain things. I even have a memory of going to the Eden Project when I was about 6, and I regretted for months not buying a rubber in the gift shop. So when I say I was fueled with regret, I'm not joking. And so as I started doing a lot of this work, I created something called pregrets. Pregrets, hopefully you can kind of anticipate what it means by the name, but pregrets are where you get ahead of any regrets that you could have. You think to yourself, okay, what might I regret about what I'm about to do or how I'm being? And how can I prevent myself from that regret? So if you're saying, if I was to get to the end of 2026 and I was to feel proud of myself for the year, what would I have had to do? Or most importantly, how would I have had to be? When you say, what would I have had to do? That's getting into the territory of goal setting again and the guilt that can be related to that. So I really want you to think about how you would need to be to feel proud. Would you need to be somebody that is patient? Would you need to be someone that is kind? Would you need to be someone that puts themselves first? And on the flip side, what would you not need to be? Not needing to be somebody that takes themselves too seriously. So really have a think about what you need to be and maybe slightly do or not be this year to really allow yourself to look back with no regrets and a hell of a lot of pride. Number 6, instead of adding another habit for this year that you want to implement, which is all anybody really talks about this time of year, how about thinking about something you could subtract? We put a lot of weight on what to add. And it's exciting to think about, oh, I'm going to start going to the gym. I'm going to take up reformer Pilates. I'm going to start running every day. I'm going to start recording more content. I'm going to. And the I'm going to's very quickly can fall flat. But actually, subtracting can be really, really powerful. So for instance, if you wanted to help yourself to feel more safe, have a 2026 where you feel safer in your environment, maybe it's subtracting a person from your life. And I don't mean that in the cruel sense. I mean, is there somebody that actively makes you feel unsafe? And is there a way that you could subtract the amount of time you spend with them? If you are somebody that wants to save money this year, or you want to increase your finances, rather than saying, I'm going to earn £5,000 a month this year, that's my goal, could you actually subtract some shopping trips? Could you subtract some subscriptions? You'll probably find that there is a habit that you could subtract. Could you subtract buying chocolate? Could you subtract one night out a week? What habit could you subtract from your life that would have a really big impact or actually lead you to gain more than just by adding a new habit that, again, is probably going to fall flat? Number 7, and one that I've kind of touched on already, is what is one area of your life that if you were to focus on would have a massive ripple effect out onto other areas of your life? This is super duper helpful to ask yourself, because we tend to think that we need to have a balanced life, that we need to put as much attention on each thing in our life, each area in our life, in order to raise them all up. But let me tell you, a balanced life, it's not possible. Your life will never be balanced. Even when you're retired, you're no longer focused on work. And so your career is at an all-time low. When you are pregnant, your health or your fitness may fall to an all-time low. When you have kids, your relationship may fall to an all-time low, or your personal adventures may fall to an all-time low. That's not a bad thing. If you want to excel in a specific area of your life, you have to focus on that area of your life. And when you focus on that area of your life, others are going to naturally fall down a little bit. But there will be an area of your life that if you were to focus on that, it would actually help to raise up other areas. So, for instance, if you were to focus on your finances, that would actually have a ripple effect out onto your ability to have kids or get married or be more sociable because you've got more money to spend. It could allow you to move out of your house that you live in with your parents, which would maybe allow you to start dating more or to find a partner. You could use that money to learn how to drive, which would then allow you to get a new job because you could drive to a different workplace. So many things. It might allow you to do so many things that you hadn't even thought about. So what is the one area for you that you're going to focus on that is going to have a ripple effect out onto other areas? For me, it's content. I have been really putting content on the back burner in 2025, feeling out of clarity with it, out of alignment with it, confused with it, and finding it more of a chore than something I enjoy. And I've had a lot of clarity on it recently and have realised that, hang on a minute, this one thing, this is not meant to be on the back burner. This is meant to be the driving force of everything. Because when I do more of this, I connect with more of you. That makes me feel good. It leads me to be able to run more events. It leads me to just do more of the things that I love. And that really has a ripple effect out onto so many areas of my life. So what is your pillar area that if you focus on is going to help so many other things? Really take some time to think about this and to look at how it's going to impact the others. Because when you know that, how motivating is that? If I keep in mind how doing stuff like this, filming videos like this, is going to influence so many areas of my life, you're damn sure when I wake up in the morning, I want to record some content. So what is that area for you, or that activity for you that's going to really help? Maybe it's going to therapy or seeing a counsellor. Because if you were to improve your mindset, maybe it's coming to one of my retreats, if you were to improve this, hang on a minute, I don't even mean to just bring this up, but it's so true. When people come to my retreats, so if you don't know about them, they're intensive week-long experiences where you are working with me and my team and doing this work alongside other people who want to do this work too. The people that come along, within the next year, their entire life changes. They leave toxic relationships. Over 50% of people that have come along have found healthy relationships in the year afterwards. They leave toxic jobs, or they realise that their job no longer aligns with what they want to do. They have the confidence to apply for promotions or to actually start a business or start a podcast. They improve their relationship with their family. Honestly, when you do work in one area, like on your mindset, it has such a ripple effect, and the value of that is just undescribable. So what is one thing, if you really focused on, would completely change your life? Number 8, if you were to have to sacrifice an area of your life in order to achieve the things that you've just written down, which would it be, and how can you help yourself come to acceptance and peace of that? As I mentioned, whilst your parents or your boss or your friends might have a go at you for neglecting certain areas of your life and saying that you need to do more in this area, do more in that area, you're not focusing on this, you need to have a balanced life, that is not doable. If you want to have the best year of your life and to make a lot of progress and to have a lot of fulfillment, you cannot be a 10 out of 10 in every area. Hands down. I wish that I could say that you could be a 10 out of 10 in all areas, but it wouldn't even lead you to an average life because you'd be so scattered with your thinking and your time, or you'd just get incredibly burnt out incredibly quickly. So Before you start focusing on these areas and then find that you have kind of decreased in another area, let's just own it right now. I know that for the last few years that I've been working on my business, I have really reduced the quality in the friendship area, especially moving around as much as I have. That's really, really decreased. I'm slowly starting to be able to increase that now as my focus is actually shifting more onto doing independent activities. I'm being able to nurture that a little bit more. There have been times where my finances have dropped a lot lower because I really wanted to focus on creating a home base and safety in terms of where I am physically. So before anyone has a chance to tell you that what you're doing is wrong and you should be focusing on other areas, I want you to own it now and look at what your priorities are and how that might affect other areas of your life. How might other areas of your life decrease as a result of focusing on this area? It's not to say that a certain area of your life is going to go rapidly downhill and it's going to ruin your life. It's just to say that you won't be able to focus on it as much. If you're prioritizing friendships, and that might mean going out for drinks, it might mean spending money on trips, then maybe your health and your finances are going to take a bit of a dip. But if prioritizing your friendships is really, really important to you, or your relationship, maybe you're getting married this year, if that's really important to you, don't go into this year expecting your health and or your finances to stay where they were, because that's probably not going to happen. Recognize now that area might take a dip, but you're okay with it. And if you can't be okay with it, then maybe you need to address your priorities again and have a little rethink. Okay, so really take some time to ask yourself that question, come to peace and awareness and acceptance that that may happen. And so you are ready when that parent says, you're not spending any time doing this. You know already, and you can't be offended by it or made to feel guilty. And number 9, a bit more of a philosophical question. What would 85-year-old you be looking back on this stage of your life and thinking, I wish I'd done more of that. I wish I'd focused on more of that. When we are in our own lives, as we always are, a bit of a silly thing to say, we are so zoomed in on the friendship drama we have going on, the thing that your dad isn't happy with you about, the fact that so much money is going out each month, the fact that you are overworked at work. And that is so consuming. And so it is really helpful to take time to occasionally zoom out, to put yourself in 85-year-old you's body and mind, and to think, what do I wish I'd have done? And I know for me that really relates back to those happiest moments of 2025. 85-year-old me, who's a little bit crippled, a little bit not able to do the things that I can do now, would wish that they had more memories of me going out and doing things and being active and moving and swimming. Because then when I'm crippled and in bed and can't really move, I can look back at those pictures. I can really imagine myself back in that forest, back on that paddleboard. And so that really aligns with one of my priorities for this year. So this doesn't necessarily need to change your priorities or to change any of your answers to the previous questions, but it's just something to keep in mind, and also a question to come to when you are maybe feeling a little bit stressed, a little bit overwhelmed, or really, really zoomed in and to a point where it's unhelpful. If you do want more support with how to make sure 2026 is the year that helps you create a life you've always dreamed of, where you overcome the barriers that you feel like you've been hurdling for the last 5 years, where you learn how to support yourself through any challenge that comes your way, because let's be honest, 2026, even if you do everything that I've just suggested, there are still going to be challenges coming your way. The point of preparing yourself for the year is not to try and eliminate challenges, but to get yourself in the best headspace, mindset, and with the most amount of clarity with which you can use to overcome the challenges that come your way, to to feel prepared for them. So if you really want extra support doing that, then we have just launched a new date for my self-empowerment retreat in 2026, where you'll be working directly with me and my team and a group of people who are like-minded and only focused on living a life of positivity and confidence and really making strides forward that they haven't been able to do for years. Then I'll leave the details in the description if you're curious to learn more. But before you go, one thing I would really love to know is which question was the most clarity inducing for you. Pop it in the comments. Which question helped you to really feel like you've got a grip on 2026, you know where you're going and you know how to get there? Pop it in the comments, and hey, maybe you'll find an accountability buddy in the comments. That's all for this video. Click subscribe if you want more helpful content as to how to create a life of self-empowerment, of excitement, of fulfillment, and of progress. And I will see you in the next video. I appreciate you.